Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of Micadelic. This is a short bonus episode. Please, if you're a fan of the show, if you like the show, leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. That's how you can help the show grow, and that's how we can spread the message that you care so much about spreading, and that is of liberty, cognitive liberty, and healing through the benefits of psychedelics. And other methods, of course, meditation and things like that. We talk about those kinds of things, but basically, this is, a healing journey powered by liberty. And that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about today. And I was thinking about this episode. I was thinking about calling it a message to the left. A message to the left. And, I just feel like this has been kind of a hot topic on the internet. And, whatever is happening on mainstream news bleeds into the internet now. You can consider Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and even Snapchat now. They're grabbing just as much advertising dollars. These are the new mainstream. These are what is taking over what we call now mainstream media, which is, in my opinion, dead and dying. But it's like, one of the best examples of recent memory that comes to mind was, I think, from the end of the Hunger Games trilogy. I don't know if, spoiler alert, okay? But at the end, I don't remember because I only saw it once, but I thought it was a great ending. At the end, one of the people who helped rebel against the Capitol and overthrow the dictatorship, they then took the position of power, and then they were executing the same kinds of decisions down the same path as their predecessor. And so the Katniss Everdeen, the Jennifer Lawrence, who she plays that character, took her out at the end, because it was like, we can't just replace one old shitty thing with a new thing. That's the saying, devil in a new dress. It's like, here comes the new boss, same as the old boss. So it's that, and it's tricky because these kinds they kind of just seep in, they mesh in. But I want to just talk about message to the left, because it's like, look, when Trump won the presidency, I thought it would have been a good opportunity for people on the left to kind of wake up a little bit and get more politically engaged, get more active, become voices of reason again, against the big government forces and things that we don't necessarily like. But instead, they have been sucked into a lot of diversionary issues and getting sidetracked by, of course, the powerful mainstream media, who, we talk about the mainstream media, and it's not just like, CNN, Fox News, and those organizations, but they're Vox, Huffington Post. It's all of the kind of the bigger outlets who have been sort of compromised to pushing out these messages that get clicks. I mean, that is essentially all this is about. I mean, it's, when it was newspaper, TV, radio, it was about getting viewers. Nowadays with social media and with the internet, you can measure so much more. You can get so much more data, and then you can market to people in such a better way. It's, the advertising dollar is very powerful. So, I look at this system, because there's the state, and then there's, this private system, the media, and it's, it's just a reflection of human nature, is to try and just rile people up and get people to buy what you want them to buy. I mean, that's essentially what is going on here. I mean, the more people that tune in to, the more people that read Vox, or the more people that read Attention, or Vice, or I don't know, what are some other big ones? There's, watch Young Turks, whatever. It's, I guess actually Young Turks is just wrong. I don't know if they're necessarily establishment leftists, but they're just wrong. But the more that people kind of like get sucked into a lot of these clickbaity diversion-y issues, then the more we lose track of what's really important, what we should really be talking about as a species, as human beings who populate a environment. We should be talking about what are the best ways to organize society to give people the best chance at having having a good life. And instead, what happens is we get sucked into one or two or three issues, or we get fixated on one guy, and it's kind of molded to be that way a little bit because it's easier. It's like, well, what did Trump do today? I was just on Instagram and I saw there was like a chalk, what do you call it? Like those chalk little billboard things out on the sidewalk in New York City, and it said, you're gonna need a bottle of wine, especially after reading what he tweets next. I mean, it's like, this has just become American politics has become a game show, a reality show, and it's like Trump is the absolute perfect guy. He's the perfect heel. In wrestling, they call it a heel, like a villain. He's the perfect heel for our country. It's like it fits the narrative that has been peddled to these young minds in schools and then later in colleges, of being the victim, of white male privilege, of all of these, false things that have been talked about. And while there's definitely some truth, because I think all of this nonsense that we call nonsense is nonsense. It doesn't mean that it didn't originate from a place of origin where there is an element of truth to it. Sure, there's an element of truth to it, but what happens is that tiny kernel, that element of truth is really just kind of a factor of what, it's just kind of a factor of what is. And we can talk all we want about why it is that way or whatever, but it just is what it is. But there's people that are upset about the way that it is what it is, so they have to magnify that kernel of truth and really shove it down everybody's throats until everybody gets this repeated message of like white male privilege, white male privilege, white male privilege. You're transphobic, you're transphobic, you're transphobic, and it's like the message should be let people have the opinions they want to have and leave them alone if they're not causing any harm to you, physical harm. That's it. Comedy is comedy. If you're making fun of somebody for being transgender, you're making fun of them for being transgender. Why? Because transgender is not the norm. Most people aren't transgender. So it's funny to most people because it's different. And when we see things that are different, we laugh because it's not like us. And it's humorous to see another human being living a life that could be so far different from the one that we're living. It's as simple as that. Why is an Indian accent funny to me? Because most of the people I know aren't Indian. I didn't grow up in an Indian household, and it just sounds different, so it's funny. But that doesn't mean that I think that Indian people are just inherently stereotypical. Hello, cab driver, man. No. I know that they're regular, it's just like I'm Italian and people make fun of Italian stereotypes. And, I've actively, as a younger kid, I've actively tried to distance myself from being stereotypically perceived as Italian. I don't really care for those traits. They don't appeal to me. I'm not somebody that's like, oh, I'm proud of them. I recognize that it's part of a heritage that I belong to, and it's kind of funny. I make fun of those people too, the stereotypical Italian people. And so I think that what really we have to start doing here is just allowing people to be who they are, allowing us to act in a normal way that human beings act without mean intentions. We're human beings, we're not robots. We're able to tell when something is mean. If it has a mean intention to it, if it means to do harm to somebody specifically, if it means to really, really hurt someone, like a Hitler kind of person or someone, or like a Stalin, someone like that. Pol Pot, take your pick. So I want to talk about what I consider to be the three most important issues of humanity today, and that is the power of the state and the power of the monetary systems and war and peace, which is probably the most important thing. I mean, call me crazy, but I think that not murdering people is a pretty good place to start, right? I would think that, saying that would be a priority over who gets to go into a bathroom. And, I have a theory about this, and my theory is that I think that a lot of people find it very difficult to tackle these big issues because we're not taught them. You have to seek them out on your own and find out the truth about a lot of these things. You have to find out the truth about the Federal Reserve. You have to find out the truth about, the anatomy of the state, as Murray Rothbard says. You have to find out the truth about, the wars and history and these sorts of things. And you have to dig. You have to dig for them. And then you have to analyze it, go over it in your head, ruminate about it, negotiate certain things, be willing to struggle and wrestle with ideas and concepts and discuss them and debate them and be shut down and be called names and have that freedom of speech to exercise your knowledge, so you know what you think. You know what you think, and then you can make better sense of the world and yourself in it. And then you can try and have empathy, because by knowing what you think and by making sense of the world and your place in it, you understand what it's like to be a human being, and you understand what it's like to live a human experience. And when you understand what it's like to live a human experience, you create more empathy for other people and for yourself. You create more empathy and more compassion, and that creates more respect. And when you have more respect, you have less fear and less paranoia and less hysteria, less blowing things out of proportion, more letting people do what they like to do, and more tuned in to the fullness of humanity. And psychedelics can definitely do that for you. Psychedelics can definitely crack through a barrier and provide to you a whole different kind of understanding that's more of a feeling understanding, more of a knowing understanding. You just know, you feel it to be that way. It's a different kind of intelligence. And so I think that we live in a time of great challenge. And I think that challenge in this time for most Americans, especially for most, middle class Americans and above, that for us, we have the education, the means, the resources, the know-how, the intellect, the ability, the opportunity, the privilege to actually not be ignorant and be informed of the real problems of our time. And I feel that there's a major disservice to the youth by corroding and twisting their minds and manipulating them into getting worked up and getting fearful over issues that, while are important and do matter, do not take priority to the three that I mentioned that are so important, that if we fix those top three, then I guarantee you that we'll have a way better chance of fixing the remaining 1 million problems that everybody encounters in their everyday life, and with being alive and being a person. But as long as we make the choice to let our attention be diverted to be sucked into spirals of fear, then we're going to act appropriately, the way that human beings have acted since our inception. When there's a threat, we respond in an equal manner. And today, the warfare against the people that that live in America, I can only speak to my country, I suppose, because I only know the tactics of my country and what they employ on their population. So here it's for, like I said, for people who are middle class, upper middle class and above, because the poor, it's a different story. The poor are getting fucked, totally fucked. They're just getting their lives. I don't know what their lives are like. They're just the people that live in inner cities where there's gangs and there's crime. I don't know that life. I don't live there. I don't know. So I can't speak to that. But I know that it's very bad, and I know that their opportunities are running out, and I know that that a lot of it is systematically done by the state, and and of course the war on drugs plays a big part in that as well. But I want to just speak about people who are in like the middle class. I don't know. Maybe you're making $70,000 a year or something, 70,000 and up. I don't know what it is, but for people like that, people that I know, people who are similar to me, we're not getting locked up for smoking joints. We're not getting, we don't have to really worry, when we get stopped by a police officer if we're going to get shot. We don't, not necessarily, we don't have to really worry. We don't have to worry about drone strikes, bombing our village or something like that. So the point that I'm trying to make is that when you're part of more of an affluent class, really the only warfare that's being devised upon us is psychological warfare. Warfare of propaganda, warfare of fear-mongering, and, clickbait culture, and instant reminiscing on social media, and, the vanity and narcissism that goes along with it. It's, we are essentially voluntarily entering into our own sort of enslavement, which is interesting because there's a lot of fun to be had in that realm. There's definitely a lot of fun to be had in that realm, but all the fun that is available in that realm are consolation prizes. I think I mentioned this in another episode, but it's like, cheap little substitutes for the real thing. And the real thing is what every human being, I think, craves and desires. And I think that we see that with that lack of connection, with the severing of that connection between us and the real thing, and the replacement with this mediator of consolation prizes offered to us, I think that our pain manifests in many different ways, and we see it with all the kinds of diseases and ailments and sicknesses and mental issues and depression and anxiety and all that stuff. These are things that have emerged and formed out of being oppressed in a very, very, I'm trying to think of the right word, almost invisible way. Because it's not totally invisible. It's like everybody feels like there's just something that's like not really quite totally right. And it's not like it's not just in every area of your life. It could be in one particular area or, something, but everybody has that kind of deep down feeling that they don't share with other people. Most people don't share with other people. But I know it's there because I experience it myself, and I'm a human being, and so are all of you. So it must be similar. And I think what happens is that we get distracted by these issues, and it's not just a message to the left, and I guess that's why I didn't start off with like a message. I was thinking about calling it a message to the left, but it's more of just a message to everybody, really. But I think that we hear so much about the left being hysterical about it, but then again, the right can be just as bad, in their responding and stuff. But I don't consider myself really to fit into any of those categories. I mean, I guess I would probably lean more to the right side, but I'm liberal and, a voluntarist. I mean, I just believe that all interaction should be voluntary. I believe in the non-aggression principle, the golden rule. I believe in just don't hurt people, don't take their things, don't invade somebody else's. I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple. If you just apply this one rule, just take this rule and apply it like a coat of paint. Just go down all of society and just paint this rule onto every single thing. Paint it onto government, paint it onto the military, paint it onto banks, paint it onto people's houses, private institutions, whatever, car dealerships. Just paint this one rule on, and it's just don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. That's it. Just a moral code. No, of course people are going to break that because that's what we do. We just break rules. That's who human beings are. It's fun. Are we going to get caught? Who knows? But I want to live in a world where the mainstream message is one of this. The mainstream message communicates to our highest common denominator, not our lowest common denominator. And I think it's a shame that model has been so successful because it almost makes you think that like, oh, well, I guess it's just always destined to be this way. But I don't think so. I think I see a lot of things shaping up to be in a more positive, more inspiring direction. And I think that you see that a lot with hopefully this podcast and, Instagram posts and if you could follow the right people is really what you need to be doing, and cut the people that don't serve you out of your life. And that means that's everything. I mean, if you have cable television and you only, watch like one show on there, just get rid of it because, you're going to wind up flipping. Someone's going to come over. They're going to put something on. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it. Don't have it. There's no need for it, But maybe to watch live sports, but, commercials, go to a bar or something, Just eliminate the amount of weapons pointed at you. Is really, it's we live in like a choose your own adventure story right now. And we have a choose your own adventure story, and that story is basically choose what you want to pay attention to. What you pay attention to becomes what your reality is shaped by. I remember this class that I took, and I don't remember many of them, but the professor was good, and I forgot his name. But it was a communication class that I took in Buffalo, 2007 or something like that. And it was, 10 years ago, college. Fuck. It's crazy. College is fun. This class, I remember we did this study here and a report on television watching, and it was like people who watch 40 hours of television a week, like shows like NCIS, Law and Order, shows like that. If they only watched, if the majority of their shows they watched were shows like that they had like a drastic increase. I forget what the percentage was. A drastic increase in perceiving the world to look that way. So what that means is like if they're going to a bar and there's not a lot of people in the bar and the waiter and the bartender's like cleaning the glasses and stuff, that's kind of like a typical scene from like Law and Order, right? Like they might have an image or like a guy in a van loading boxes, like they might say, oh, okay, this is a similar situation to a familiar kind of version of reality that I'm familiar with because I tune into that version of reality and I watch it and I'm familiar with it. So it that world seeps into this world a little bit more in terms of how you see it, how you perceive it, how you imagine it to be, what kind of situations, what people might say, what people might do, what people are likely to say, what people are likely to do, And there's, it's cliche, but people say, well, why do they call it television programming? Like, it's programming. I mean, it is. But television's programming, internet's programming. What I'm telling you right now is programming. This is programming. I'm programming. I'm communicating a message that I think is true to you guys, and you are like I'm in your life. Like, I'm a person in your life. Like, things that you recognize might pop up, and you might say, oh, I heard that on the podcast, or I remember Mike saying something like that, or whatever. You're choosing to tune into this particular frequency. But the frequency that I'm trying to create is a frequency of love and of peace and of voluntary cooperation, and also a respect and an understanding to realize that not everybody's going to want to participate in that sort of situation. So really, what I'm talking about here isn't some kind of hippy dippy utopian dream of like, we're all going to hold hands, sing Kumbaya, listen to John Lennon, everybody's going to take LSD, we're all going to have orgies. Like, I know that's not going to happen, but I should have the right to associate with people who want to participate in a reality that's like that. And for those of the other people that don't want to participate in a reality like that, then you can go ahead and you can go and form your own reality. And we'll leave you alone, and you leave us alone. And if you don't want to leave us alone, well, then we'll arm ourselves and we'll protect ourselves. And if you try and, start anything, I mean, that's essentially how humans have lived on this planet until agricultural times. The dawn of agriculture was the dawn of slavery, and the dawn of slavery was the dawn of the modern day civilization. And that's why we look at these, great structures and all these things, and it's like, okay, great. What about the humans? But it's not a message of utopianism. It's it's a message of radical self-determination, radical self-ownership, individualism, radical respect for other people who disagree with you, to live and let live. So, it's a difficult thing, I think, to grasp, I guess, because these diversionary topics, they really get people. They really sink their hooks into people's emotions, and they really twist and turn on the emotional levers. And we're all told how we should respond and how we should feel and how we should think and what side we should be on. And again, I'll just say, I initially wanted to say message to the left, but it's more of a message to everyone. But a little bit talking about the left right now, I say, I used to be a member, I guess. I mean, I definitely, I was kind of apolitical, but listen, I was educated in public school systems in New York State. My parents are Democrats, and this is a blue state. I grew up in a very kind of big government town, I guess. A lot of public activities, public pools, and all kinds of public offerings. And so, my dad would get the New York Times, read the New York Times. I mean, it just seemed like a rational thing to do. And George W. Bush was president when I was in my, formative years, going through high school, more college, actually. It was at the end of high school when he got elected. But so college campus, the general consensus was, I went to school in New York, so Buffalo. The general consensus was, in my whole my version of reality, this is what Robert Anton Wilson calls reality tunnels. We all live in reality tunnels, and our tunnels are all slightly a little bit different, but we converge with tunnels that are similar, and then we create these large, general consensus versions of reality tunnels. And so the message that I received was, or the message that I had been ensconced in, the invisible conditioning in my reality tunnel all around me was, obviously the Republicans are the evil guys. Obviously George W. Bush is an idiot. And obviously the Democrats, the blue guys, are the heroes. And, Bill Clinton was the best president ever. And, we had the best time there and all that stuff. And while, that's true, obviously, like Bush was terrible, but as soon as you learn that Clinton was terrible too, and then, a lot of people before him were terrible, that the presidency in and of itself is pretty terrible, then it all kind of makes sense. Then it's like, oh, well, are they just playing like the good cop, bad cop routine up here? I mean, I think essentially that's what's going on. It's like, all right, well, you had 8 years of Clinton. Man, times were good, weren't they? Like, it was just, all I remember is saxophones and blowjobs, And then, oh, here comes the bad cop, George W. Bush. Like, he's the bad. And, this is the message that most people get in large Democratic, Democrat, blue state, urban city areas. Los Angeles, New York, Seattle, all the familiar places. And so it was just kind of obvious. Democrats are the good guys, Republicans are the bad guys. Right? And it wasn't until, and trust me, I was a cheerleader for Barack Obama. I was watching YouTube clips of him in college in 2006 and 2007 before he even ran. My father and we would used to talk about, this senator, he looks pretty impressive. He can talk, and he would always invoke the Constitution and the founders, and he just sounded like, man, like here's a guy who's going to come in here. Look, I was in New York on 9/11. I saw the towers fall. I remember the second tower hitting. As soon as we got word that a plane had hit the first tower, we left school, me and my friends, and went to my friend's house and watched on television live the whole thing play out the rest of the day. I remember it clear as day. And I remember Bush being like, we're gonna get these goddamn sons of bitches, these terrorists. This aggression will not stand, man. That was a terrible Bush impression. Terror. Operation Iraqi Freedom. Dick Cheney and me are gonna go kick some tail. Commander-in-Chief. Hey. I mean, these guys are fucking criminals. And I'm talking about all of them. Politicians, the state, the 1%, the elite, the top brass. They laugh because they get away with it over and over again. They laugh because we all buy in. We all buy into the team sides. We pick sides, we cheer red, we cheer blue, we shout down people, we fight, or we just totally withdraw, we do nothing, we don't even participate, we don't even pay attention. And it's those people that don't pay attention, that don't know anything, that go out and vote because they think they're informed. They think they're informed. You know how many people I know who I ask them about politics? They don't know anything. There's like Jimmy Kimmel clips where they interview people on the street, people they can't name the vice president. So it's like, I mean, not to be a dick, but most people in this country are dumber than dumb. But, it's you got to have sympathy for them in a way because it's not their fault. This has been the construction of a system. These have been, the way that whether it was planned, in a room, or whether it was just the natural progression of the human evolution of what we do. We get together, we dominate other people, we take power, we kill, murder, lie, cheat, steal. you know. But I'm willing to bet that there's more people out there that wouldn't behave that way, or that don't, or that actually I should say there's more people out there who do not live their lives that way. There's a lot of people out there. There's more people than out there that are good than are bad, I think. Or that are willing to choose good over bad. There's more people out there that are willing to choose being good than choose being bad. And for whatever reason, I mean, whether they're, they're afraid that they won't get into heaven, or it doesn't matter. All that matters is their actions and what they're willing to do. So I don't care what reason people choose to believe that being a good person is better than being a bad person. But whatever that is, it's good. I mean, it's good that most people choose that. But in this day and age, where we have access to information, where it's almost the responsibility of those of us who have the education, the intellect, the capacity, the resources to do good, to choose to do good, that are not doing it. That we're continuing to participate in the systems that benefit the elites. And it's basically, we're choosing to obey. And as long as we keep choosing to obey, then we will just, we'll just walk around like chickens with our heads cut off, because we'll be so flustered and stressed and depressed and anxious and, all these things, because we're reading the news and we're tweeting and we're yelling at people and we're arguing and we're, we're voting and we're protesting and we're getting worked up at everything that Trump does and all this stuff. And it's like, meanwhile, like I said in the beginning of this show, all this stuff, transphobia, healthcare, all of these things. I mean, I'm laughing because if you look back at every single, look back at the last 40, 50 years of presidential politics, it's always the same things. Healthcare, taxes, I guess. It doesn't even seem like it's a big one anymore. Racism, phobias, rights. When was the last time that people really got worked up for the Federal Reserve, the printing of money, the bailing out of banks, the drone strikes, the spying, the perpetual war, violence, murder, death, displacement, dismemberment, disembodied people, destruction, devastation, hell on earth. And it's like, I know we don't have to pay attention to that here. We don't have to. We literally, there's people in America that are living here that literally will never know what I'm saying, will never be receptive to what I'm saying, will never think 1 second about any of this stuff. But they don't realize that it impacts their life, that they are living in a zoo, and that they're a slave. And I mean, obviously, every time you say that, someone goes, "Oh, they're not slaves because they're not forced to." No, they're slaves to the system, to the way that the way that the rulers have chosen to organize society, and the way that they've chosen to operate and set up the game rules. This is a game. We're in a game. So, these big three issues, or these, I mean, it's more than three, but I mean, really, like, what should the role of government be? Ron Paul used to say this all the time. What should the role of government be in our lives? Why are we not having the fundamental discussion of what the role of government is in our lives? How intrusive should government be in our lives? What should we be doing around the world? What should we be spending? What should we be what should we, all of these things, they matter. They matter. You might not think that they matter, but they impact you. When you go out to the grocery store to buy, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example of what a common, I was going to say milk, but I haven't drinking milk in, like, I don't have dairy, really, milk, but just milk, really. But anyway, if you go to the grocery store to purchase orange juice or something, right? Whatever you're going to get, it's like $4.50. Why is it $4.50? And what was it? What was that same juice 50 years ago? You hear people always talk about, back in my day, it only cost a nickel to go to the movie theater. Well, why is that? Is it just because we live in the future now, and the past everyone was poor or something? Oh, we have better technology now, so naturally things would be more expensive because they didn't have any technology in the past, so things were just poor. They didn't have anything. They just rode around on dirt-covered horses and stuff. I mean, no. It's inflation. And not a lot of people know about what they don't know what inflation is. No idea. It's just a mystery. But it affects everyone. It affects how much things cost. It affects the purchasing power of the dollar. When the banks failed, and I mean, this is just, you talk about financial regulations or whatever, and then we can say that it's the Republicans and they do this and that and whatever, the Democrat. I mean, Barack Obama bails out the bankers, man. I mean, it was George W. Bush's problem, Good cop, bad cop routine. It's it's not complicated. It's very simple. It simply is exactly that. The good cop, bad cop routine, blame it on the other person. Obama comes in there, they're all like, hey, look, you bail us all out. We got you elected, we contributed to your campaign. Goldman Sachs was like, I mean, come on. Goldman Sachs donate, I forget I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they major contributor to Obama's campaign. So obviously, when they need money, look, we should print out some money and give it over to my buddies at Goldman Sachs, because they're real nice fellas. They really came through in a jiffy for me. Goldman Sachs took more than $20 billion in taxpayer money through bailouts, payments, and backstops, and then turned around and paid out $16.2 billion as 2009 bonuses, plus an additional $5 billion more in bonuses in 2010. Without Obama administration's help, Goldman's bonuses would have been nothing. Too big to fail. The biggest malarkey of our lives. This is what happens. We constantly get lied to, and we constantly get fucked over. And what it is it's the responsibility of people who have a certain kind of intelligence, who are in the know, who have a certain kind of level of persuasion and power to do the right thing. And by not doing the right thing, you're not informing people of the truth, and it leads to a worse off society. It leads to, you think that your life is good because you live in a little bit of a bubble, but that all of your actions have repercussions. All of your non-actions have repercussions, and those repercussions you're either going to live a life where you contribute to human suffering or you alleviate human suffering. And that's really the difference maker. You talk about like the division line in politics is now libertarian and authoritarian. It's no longer left and right. It's authoritarian or Democrat, Republican. It's authoritarian and libertarian. Well, are you on the side that contributes to more human suffering, or are you on the side that decreases the amount of human suffering? Do you alleviate it or do you increase it? And that means everything. It's all about what, and we start with humans first because we're all human. And then we work our way down. Okay. Is everybody contributing to human suffering, or is there a lot of more people contributing to decreasing human suffering than increasing it? Okay, good. We have a majority of people that are focused on increasing the amount of happiness and decreasing the amount of suffering in their own lives and in turn other people's lives. Okay, great. Now we can focus on animals and plants and then go down the list. But these are the issues that matter. This is what really matters, and these major issues, these issues of manipulating the monetary policy, of the tool that we use to exchange our goods and services, the effort that we put into society to make a contribution, to add some value to life, to receive a reward for participating, and then using that reward to buy things, to purchase things, to acquire things that we like, that we find desirable, that we want, that we wish, to use it for experiences. We trade time, we trade skill, we trade labor, we trade all these things. And by trading those things, we work together. We're collaborating with each other. It's an unwritten rule that if I go to your store and I buy the orange juice and I give you the money, that's an exchange we've just made. That's a beautiful exchange of I want that, you give me that. And it's that collaboration, that working together, that is where peace comes from. But the minute people start forcing and using violence or threats of violence and intimidation and manipulation and all that, then that distorts. And then when the person in power distorts, then everybody else distorts because they have to mimic the power, because the power is in power, can deal out punishments and can deal out rewards. So everybody bends to that power. Everybody falls in line with that hierarchy. So the message is really like, look, we're not going to be able to just say we can change the world and force governments and force corporate to do the right thing or something. We have to like encourage and inspire and lead by example. I mean, that's how things change. Things change when someone has the courage to lead by example. Make this example a lot, but on like Star Wars, in Return of the Jedi, when the Emperor is like, perfect, I made you fight your father because I wanted a new apprentice. Now use all of your hate, strike him down, and take your father's place at my side. Get me a caramel treat, chuck me in, read me a story. All right, he's the Emperor. He's like, take your place at my side, your father's place at my side. And Luke could, he could do it. He could be like, man, wow, I feel powerful. Like I just defeated my father. Like I'll just, I'll kill him, and then I'll have all this power. I'll be ruling the galaxy or whatever. I mean, it's a tempting offer, But then he looks down and he sees his hand, and he moves, and Luke Skywalker moves his hand, and it goes like, because it's a robot hand, the glove, the black glove, because his father cut his hand off in Empire. Spoiler alert! In Empire Strikes Back. And he has an insight. There's a look on Luke Skywalker's face, and he says, "No, never. No." Because he sees, I'm becoming the machine. I'm falling into the same trap that my father fell into, the lusting over power and control and domination. I'm becoming the machine. I'm becoming the dominator. I'm becoming the matrix, And he chooses no. He says, I'll never join you. And, he sacrifices himself to do the right thing because the emperor starts electrocuting him. But then his father saves him, of course. Redemption. All right. Well, I think that might be about it. But I guess the main thing that I want to communicate is, it's fun and easy and comforting, and what else? I don't know. I guess comforting in our delusion. It's easy and comforting to go along with the crowd, to go along with the lowest common denominator, to get swept up in thinking that you're making a difference by opposing a side or being on a side or caring about an issue that is personal to you, that matters. But I think that there's a lot of missing the point. And it's not easy to choose to educate yourself and to learn about things that maybe don't really necessarily affect you. You don't necessarily feel that they affect you in your day-to-day life. But these are the felt but unseen actors that are dictating the course of your life, and you don't realize it, you don't know it, because it's all ripple effect. The CIA calls it blowback, the term blowback, and Ron Paul famously used that in that amazing moment in the debate with Rudy Giuliani. Where Rudy Giuliani was like, I think you should take that back, sir. And he said, well, no, I'm not going to take it back because it's true. And anybody that doesn't doesn't think that is just a fool. You're a fool, and you're contributing to being part of the suffering by not acknowledging that, not acknowledging that actions that are taken on our behalf, in our name, with our money, our tax dollars, are used to do things that we wouldn't want to do ourselves, that we don't want to, that we would never authorize ourselves, but they are done in our country's name, in the land that we live in our name. So it's like, we're kind of complicit, we're a little bit responsible for that. And, we're afraid of getting attacked or killed by terrorists, or, just, we don't like that there's a orange 70-year-old who grabs women by the pussy in the office. I mean, talks like, that's really what it is. It's like people just don't like the way he talks. It's not about his actions. Is that, Obama did the same thing that he did as president. Very similar. It's just it's a circus. These people are fools. It's essentially, the American public is like, look, get us a guy in there that can at least lie to us good. Trump can't even lie to us. He's too abrasive. He's too direct. We don't like that. We We like to be tricked and hypnotized, Put us back to sleep, please. That's what these people on the left are shouting at Trump. That's why they don't like Trump, because they want to go back to sleep. They don't want they don't want to have their attention drawn to this. And they just think it's just him. They don't realize that it's the actual system and the position of power that we actually have control in deeming acceptable or not, So we're never going to get anything done as long as we're screaming and yelling at each other, The thing that I'd like to see happen is that I'd like to see people go their separate ways, secede, nullify, just withdraw from formal relationships with, far out of reach dictators. I mean, that's essentially what it is. I mean, to me, the federal government is a dictator. It's a dictatorship. That's I don't look at it as like a democracy. It has the illusion of that, but it's a dictatorship. They tell you, give us this money, or or else, give us a certain percentage of your income, or else. They say you can't smoke this, you can't eat this, you can't drink that, or else. So I'm worried that there's the next 4 years, 8 years, whatever, is going to just be spent on, just spent on all this bullshit, this reality television president bullshit, this great big distraction, this 3-ring circus, the worried about every little word that it was said, the microaggressions, the phobias, the racism, all this stuff. It's always the same thing, because these are the emotional issues. And people that are on the left, they're more creative people that are on the left, more creative people that are in media. And they're more open. They have the higher trait in openness. So they're more susceptible to these emotional triggers. Oh, he said this, or oh, could you believe what this person said, or oh, did you read this article, or did you see this outrageous thing? I mean, we live in this insane clickbait culture of outrage. It's just crazy. Get a load of the latest thing. Get a load of the latest shocking thing. I mean, it's enough. Aren't we fatigued? Isn't it enough already? I mean, just to unplug a little bit and figure out who you are and what's really real about your life, your sexuality, your desires, your thoughts, your feelings, your diet, your health, your wealth. It would be nice to really hone in and focus on those things as a country, as a whole. If more people could do that, we could really create a near utopian level society here. And I know I have to be careful around that word. I don't mean utopia where everybody's holding hands. I mean, we could really have a country here that, like, what if we just stopped and we didn't repeat history? Because history has shown what's happened to empires that stretch across the globe, and they're aggressive abroad and despotic at home. It's shown what happened to the people who have lived these highfalutin civilizations, and then they've all come crumbling down. I mean, it's just, that's the way. Like, we think that we're impervious. If anything, we should pump the brakes on the smash and grab job right now and withdraw and calm down and slow down and come back, take a breath, and separate this massive landmass that we call a country into livable sections of where people can live in a harmonious way, in peace and through voluntary exchange with each other. And like-minded people can live with like-minded people. It seems very simple to me that that's the best way to organize society, for everybody to acknowledge that, not fighting for this, this giant thing that we call the federal government to just change, all of a sudden change its actors, and then the movie is going to be different. It's the same movie, different actors, same director, different actors. So if we could just if we could just spread this message, if we could spread more podcasts and more articles and more books that are talking in the way that I'm talking and concerned about the things that I'm concerned about, then we could have the best shot at having a world of more peace and more less people suffer, and when there's more opportunity for people to express themselves in more creative ways, because we won't have a criminal, tragic war on drugs. We won't be polluting children's minds with, indoctrination from an early age, and forcing them to only learn the things that we want them to learn. If we learn how to relax and respect each other a little bit more, then we can do that. But as long as we're biting, chomping at the bit and taking the bait on diversionary issues and less important things, then we're just going to keep spinning around and around and around, just like a dog chasing its tail. I mean, we're just going to keep spinning around and around. And a lot of people make money, and have a livelihood on this, because they're, they've bought into this, and they're debating like, this really matters to me. This is passionate to me. But if you just take a step back a little bit, you'll see, if you just learn how to see things from a wider perspective, from different perspectives, then you might realize that maybe the things that you're fighting for aren't necessarily the most important things, aren't really the most noble things to be fighting for, aren't really the most worthy things to be fighting for, So, I don't know. The message is just basically like, stick to what matters, and don't allow yourself to get so fucking brainwashed. It's pathetic. All right. Peace.